Just a little bit that's left.
Matthew in New Orleans, how are you?
Oh, hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, I'm
Doing
good.
well.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I was calling because I'm a theist. I believe in God, and I was in the military. I was in the Marines for 8 years. I was deployed overseas, and some of the things that I've experienced over there, and some things that I've seen. I mean, it led me to believe that for me to come home without a scratch on me, I mean, what more can it be than God watching over me? Because, I would pray before I would go out there to do anything. And, and he brought me back home, but at the same time, I question that because there were other people that prayed just like me that didn't make it back. So, it's things like that make me wonder, but, it's confusing because I know God has a plan for everybody, and it made me wonder what his plan is, but apparently he has some type of plan for me because I was able to make it home. I mean, so how do I...
Can I ask you something? And I'm asking actually from a position of ignorance because I'm not in the military and don't follow it very carefully, but do you have any concept of what is the rate at which military members get killed or injured in their entire term of duty? Like, is it
in their entire?
I mean, is it
duty,
closer to 20%, 50%, or 80%? I mean,
that's a good question. I wouldn't know that. I could just talk about. When I was overseas, we did lose a couple of guys.
A couple of guys. Out of how many?
One is enough, but
Yeah, and of course, every human life lost is a tragedy. But I mean, a couple of guys lost out of how many?
Out of a good bit. I would say within my unit, probably was more than 80 or more.
80. So that is a rate of, let's see, I would guess a bit less than 2% of people actually died. How many of the people you served with would you say got injured?
Quite a few. I would say if they did have 80, of those 80, probably I would say about maybe 15 to
so that's
20.
Yeah, so maybe 20% of them got injured. So if you're in Iraq, or I'm sorry, you didn't say where you were stationed.
Sure.
But
all right.
Right, but if you are away on active military duty, you have roughly an 80% chance of living and coming home with no injuries. Is that right?
If you put it that way, I guess.
So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily attribute that to a special plan for you. I would say, a 20% chance of serious injury is not nothing, and good for you for coming home without injury. But I also wouldn't consider it a good case for special protection for you.
Okay, so but what I'm saying is, I've been in situations to where if I would have probably moved 1 inch to the right, 1 inch to the left, that could have been the end of me. And
wouldn't that be also true of
during those times?
Lots
I
of
felt like
people?
it was like an intervention, like something told me or something stopped me from doing this particular thing that would have ended my life. So I'm like, what? I mean, is that just chance? I mean, it's hard to think that it's just chance because and like I said, I'm questioning things at this point in my life right now, So I'm like, what more can it be? I've lived my entire life believing in God. I feel as though I've gotten to this point in my life because of His blessings. And going through those things. And right now, I'm a police officer, so I get in some heavy situations in that job too. And for some reason, I'm still here. Through all these things that I'm going through, I'm still here. So what more? I mean, am I just that lucky?
Well, Matthew, hi, this is Phil here. I just had one point to make. As Russell said, I'm glad to hear that you returned home safe and sound, and thank you for your service. But you were saying that, the fact that you returned and without a scratch, that, that means that God had a plan for you. But you saying that what does that say about that 20% who didn't get as lucky as you to be able to make it back either at all or without injury?
And that's the part that troubles me, because there were people that were over there praying just like me. Mm-hmm. And it makes me wonder, it's like, okay, why is he showing me, in my mind, why is he showing me favor over this guy? Because, I'm like, okay, this guy may have been a better person than me, but he allowed this guy to die right here, but allowed me to go home for some reason. So, when I see things like that, I'm like, okay, there must be some type of plan for me. I mean, but at the same time, it makes me think, what part of God's plan, made sense? What part of what was God's plan for this guy to die?
So I understand why you think that. I mean, for a couple of reasons. It's cultural, and people tell you that that there is a God and He's looking out for people. And the other thing is that if it turns out that the all-powerful Creator of the universe has a special plan for you, that makes you feel pretty special, right? I mean. And so I can understand why it feels good and you want to think that it's not just luck. But I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's really not even all that amazing of luck. I'm sure that lots and lots of people have close shaves in their life. I mean, when I was young and a stupid teenager who wasn't that good at driving, I drove on some icy roads on a very steep mountain path, and I kind of skidded for a while and then came to a stop without driving off a cliff, which is lucky, but it didn't make me feel like I got rescued. It just meant things could have gone another way, but fortunately they didn't. And I mean, as much as you might not want to think so, it could just be statistics.
And
I understand where you're coming from.
Matthew, okay.
I understand.
But I was just about to say, but it also, the people that served with you and alongside you, people that are still there now and those that are just getting into it. Just this morning, I was at the Lackland Air Force Base at the Atheist Experience meeting where we have a large field of religious beliefs in that portion. But you're saying that you were attributing this to, your God, your specific one that you believe in, but a lot of the people that you serve with don't believe in any deity at all. They may believe in different deity or deities, depending on what's going on. Like in the meeting I was just in, we had people that were followers of the Norse religion. We had pagan Wiccans. Yeah, it's really there.
There are definitely Muslims in the army.
Right.
I mean, so Captain Khan, who was kind of high, whose death was highly visible.
Right.
So what you're saying is that
you have all those different.
I'm saying that it's my God. It could there are people that have other religions that may believe in something else, and they may say, "Oh, well, it was my God."
Right. How are we supposed to differentiate which deity had their hand in the pot? Like, how are we supposed to know which one actually granted you the favor in your opinion? Like, how are we supposed to discern which belief was correct and which deity or deity set came in to intervene for your particular situation?
And that's why I called, because staying here in New Orleans, in the South, basically, I don't have I can talk to people that believe in God all day.
Sure.
And they tell me, I hear the same things from them. They reassure me and stuff like that. And it brings me comfort when I hear those things coming from them. I don't hardly ever get to speak to somebody that has a different point of view. So, that's why I called, because I wanted some more insight on, other possibilities, because I have a lot of questions, and I don't get a lot of answers. And the answers that I'm getting, it feels like they're telling me these things because that's what they're programmed to say. And I wanted something that was more of a realistic answer from somebody that doesn't believe the same thing that they believe.
Yeah,
which is why I called, because it's real confusing to me.
Right, and I know it may feel a little bit like we're picking on you, but I mean, that's a big part of the reason why we do the show, is that a lot of times people just are steeped in a culture where everything is attributed to supernatural causes. And they don't have a lot of opportunity to talk about the other side. And even though for some people it's frightening to give up on the idea that there's some cosmic being who's looking out for them, there are a lot of problems with that worldview. And even though a lot of people think that they would have no hope and no reason to live without this idea of God grounding them, what a lot of people find who sort of drift away from their faith is that it's actually kind of a relief to not assume that they're under the constant eye of this cosmic bookkeeper who's got inscrutable reasons for, let's say, killing their best friends on purpose.
And I understand where you're coming from as far as being in an environment where everyone kind of believes the same, and so you receive kind of the same reinforcement when you ask the question. Like I grew up religious, and everyone around me, both sides of the family, even though we went to different churches, they were still believers. And so when you would ask a deeper question, or why did so and so pass away? They were so young. Why did they have to go now? And then it was kind of the same answer. Well, God had a plan for him, and that was a part of his plan. You just have to trust and make sure that you hold on to your faith. Those were the answers that I received. And when I went to university, I was in an engineering program originally, and all of a sudden I was exposed to a lot of different individuals who hold vastly different beliefs than I had growing up. I knew that they existed, but never to this degree. And so, you befriend people and you start to hear about their religious symbols and their traditions and their foods, and which are delicious in a lot of cases. But that diversity really opened up my mind into, there's a lot of people that believe a lot of different things. And like Hinduism, it was vastly different than anything that I was exposed to growing up. And so that kind of led my questioning initially when I got there to kind of pursue why my particular belief system was the true and correct one, and what about theirs? Theirs is so different that, how could we couldn't both be true, essentially? So how was I going to decide which one is going to be correct?
I would question stuff like that about different religions. And I would hear things like, oh, it's just people, we all worship the same God. Other people have just different ways of doing it, and that's what I'm always told. But, I understand everything that you're saying. But, what makes it hard is, basically the fact that I've lived my entire life believing in this one God. And then for me to even fathom or think that that he may not even exist, it makes me wonder, like, okay, well, what's going on in my life? Why are these things happening to me just by random chance? It's hard to think of a life without it, but I understand everything that you're saying, because this is why I have questions, because at the same time, if there was such a God that was so good, and he's letting all these, and say for instance, good things happen to me, why does he let bad things happen to other people? Why doesn't he just have good things happen to everybody? I don't.
Yeah, and it's hard for a lot of people I know. I mean, I've talked to people who were like in their former life full-on Pentecostal ministers, like the actual heads of organizations that did stuff like speaking in tongues, and their entire livelihood and their whole social foundation was based on them being able to say on a regular basis that they were confident and certain that God existed, and that he had a thorough plan for the lives of each and every person in their congregation that they knew. And some of those people, when they moved away from their belief in God, they experienced a serious identity crisis. And had a hard time, because basically their whole social network was based around these religious beliefs. And I don't want to downplay how difficult that is, but I do want to say that, and I'm not trying to convert you or anything, but if the time should come where you feel doubt and concern about this, there are organizations like the Clergy Project that people can connect to for former clergy members to discuss their anxieties around their loss of faith. And there are things like
recovering from religion, recovering from a religion hotline.
The Recovering from Religion has a hotline for people.
There's organizations that help people that's going through a spell where they're not believing.
Yeah, and they're very good organizations, but I can't say that they will reassure you that a God exists. I mean, if you are trying to hold on to your faith, then these might not be the people that you want to talk to. But I personally,
trying to hold on to it. It's because I don't have any. Because another thing is, I'm black, so I stay in a predominantly black community, so. The fact that even fathom being an atheist at any point in my life, I could imagine the ridicule that I would get from that. Which is why when I have some of these questions, I don't ask certain people because I know what the outcome of that's going to be. So it's almost like even if you did want to get a way out, it's almost like you're trapped into it. Because if you were to speak about that to anybody, they'll be like, okay, how could you possibly not believe in God? How could you possibly question his motives? Everything God does is for a reason. Everything is a plan, and you just have to have faith and believe in that. Yeah. That's what I'm always told, and that's and I'm actually getting tired of that answer. So, and to be honest with you, at this point in my life, I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm like, okay, right now, if I did believe in God, at this point, I'm not really liking him that much. So right now, I'm just really confused about, what's the next step that I should do? I mean, where do I go from here?
And you're dealing with two separate issues, and one of them is, does a God really exist or not? And, that is... There's no way that we can give you an easy answer to that. But the other issue that you're probably dealing with is that in your social sphere, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Religious people, some of them can be cruel, and it can be very difficult. I've spoken to kids whose parents basically disowned them and kicked them out of the house. That's an extreme case. It doesn't happen all the time.
That would have definitely been the case for me.
But on the other hand, there are probably a lot of people in your life, maybe, that you didn't know also have doubts. And you'd be surprised at how often I've heard that somebody who is afraid to tell their wife, for instance, that they don't believe anymore, got the answer, I'm really glad you said that because I've been hiding from you that I have doubts. So that kind of thing does happen. And I mentioned a minute ago the Hotline Project, which you can actually look up at recoveringfromreligion.org and then /hotline-project. Or if you just look up Recovering from Religion or Google Hotline Project and Atheist, you can probably find pretty easily. And we only have an hour and a half show every week, so we can't, counsel you for a long time, but
I thank y'all for answering my call. Y'all gave me a lot to think about. Really helped me out, and maybe I'll be able to call again and give you an update of where I'll be at the next point.
I would love that, and I hope you do. And whatever conclusion you come to, I hope that you find peace and satisfaction in the way your life goes.
And I understand where you're coming from, Matthew, on that side of not being able to talk to anyone in your close familiar circle, your friend circle. Like there's a lot of backlash that can come, and just the way that that I grew up and the way that religion was exposed to me, and how those that are around me express themselves about their religion. It was unfathomable for me to even contemplate going to an aunt or an uncle to say like, so I, this is what I'm thinking now. I'm not really in a part of the Christian portion anymore. Like even when I went spiritual but non-religious, that aspect, I had one conversation with one person in my family, and that was the one person that I knew was like we've always been close, and so they would be more willing to hear me out without the judgment that other people around me would have. And so, if you're trying to find someone outside of that circle, like Russell said, I would strongly recommend like the Recovering from Religion, that Hotline project, because they do have counselors. They have a lot of trained individuals on there that help with people that are just doubting beliefs. They're not trying to convert you. They're not trying to do anything in particular, but just hear you out and give you someone to talk to, and someone that shares a different perspective than those that you might find around you, so you can get a fresh insight with someone, on a one-on-one personal level, and that's a little more personal than going through the interweb for this kind of thing. So
I'll definitely do that.
All right, but I wish you luck, Matthew, in your search, and just good luck to you.
Yeah, really appreciate your call.
Great talking to you guys.
All right, you too.
Thanks.
Bye.